How to defeat the state and why we should. If asked, most people think the state is necessary. Those who do not think a simple excising will do the trick. As if a bakery will operate better if we only remove the baker. Everything in our nation is predicated on the state. What would happen to the police and judiciary if we just banned the state? More importantly, if a group had the power to remove the state, would it not be the state? It becomes strikingly obvious that anarchists are a naive lot. Not only in the analysis of the state but their faith in the orderly emergence of a post-state society. What would the police and the military do in a post-state world? More importantly, what would the richest and most powerful persons do? Would the billionaires reflect prosaically at the end of the state and the loss of all police protection? If in the old days the rich had the foresight both to start the Pinkertons Agency and to hire its services, it is highly unlikely similar services would not be made available to those with the willingness and ability to pay for it. But what is the state but a gang writ large? If the gang that controls a city is dismantled, the elements still exist, the attitude that gives rise to gangs still exists. One does not get rid of the state by getting rid of those who compose the state. One has to get rid of the behavior that gives rises to gangs. It is not the state that is the real issue, it is the desire some men have to rule others that is the problem. But desire without any means of implementation is also irrelevant. It is the way this world operates that is the real problem. We call this world the natural world, because it is founded on nature. But nature knows only one law, the law of the jungle. Under this scheme of things, might makes right and the end justifies the means. If what the species does, permits the species to survive, then the species is right in what it does. The same goes for the individual creature. If we can get what we want, how we got it, is immaterial. The end justifies the means. So men lie to girls to bed them. Applicants lie about their qualifications to get a job. Criminals rob and rapists rape because they want something, and violence is justified if it gets them where they want to go. People agonize over the motive for crime. They do not understand it because it is so similar to what motivates them. The criminal is just ready to use more violence than most people to get what they want. One man lies to manipulate a girl, another brutalizes her, but neither one is willing to do the work necessary to get the girl to the point where she is willing to submit fully. But these men do not want total submission, they just need to get her to the point where she will not resist penetration. Nothing has changed since Eden. In Eden, Adam wanted a new world without paying the cost. He had Eden to till and care for. He could have created a paradise in Eden. But he saw that what God had was desirable, so he tried to usurp the authority of God. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is a system. It could even be considered a system of reality. The fruit of this tree is the value that is produced by means of this system. In a more prosaic or conventional way of thinking, the fruit is the output of the system. Adam liked the output and wanted the results, without doing the work. Let's just say Adam and Eve were disgruntled employees looking for a shortcut to riches. So, what did they do? They used their power to take what was exposed to their greed. And what do we know of Nimrod? Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the Lord. So, he conquered or dominated nature. He was the first man to make full use of the power of the flesh. Nothing much changed other than the overtness of the force used. There were no covert expropriations in Nimrod's empire building. This was the first large-scale attack on the tree of knowledge. Such a statement will sound bizarre to those who are being led by blind men. Why would anyone attack the tree of knowledge? In fact, anyone who is of the flesh has no choice. We know Eden was created by God to be the home of his people. We know Adam and Eve betrayed him and were ejected from the place of God. This does not mean the attacks diminished. God's world is composed of information. The tree of knowledge is a hierarchy of information branching off a trunk of absolute perfect truth that is God. Isaiah 55 verses 7 to 11. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth, it shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Eating the fruit that comes from this existential system, this body of knowledge or information that is a particular reality, represents the taking of the truth. In a metaphorical sense, the truth was humanized. God was no longer the center or the creator of truth, man was the measure of truth. Man eating of the fruit represents man centering truth on his own being. But if in Eden God is the center, then the transfer out of Eden represents a new focus, metaphysically. This is the humanist philosophy that puts man at the center of the universe, metaphorically speaking. The war of the worlds is the war of two conflicting centers. Metaphysically, these realities are two ways of seeing truth, they are two epistemologies. Either truth is man-defined, or God-defined. The truth cannot be both, but it has to be one or the other. There are no other options. This gives us the theory of the two realities, which states there is at least one reality but not more than two. But there can only be one reality because no one can straddle two distinct realities, but it is not possible for people in these two realities to communicate with each other. So there is always going to be an unresolvable tension between these two ways of living, until the conflict is resolved in the defeat of one. But the humanist reality cannot persist as a thing in itself. It cannot be a universe because it cannot be universal. It is founded on a paradox and a quandary that it cannot resolve. As we saw in Eden, the physical reality of the humanist is parasitic. Not without reason was the formation of this reality depicted as man eating of the fruit that belonged to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The humanist reality is a parasitic conception that depends on the reality of God for its continuance. The reality of the flesh is parasitic. It takes a spiritually mature person to add to the value of the world. Theology is the study of God, but more specifically, the Bible is about the war between two realities, the flesh and spirit or church and the material realm. The Bible specifically and theology more generally is a discussion about two distinct systems. They are incompatible and are at war. This war is as much in us as around us. We cannot win the external war until we win the internal one. This is not a battle most people are willing to engage in. The number of men who willingly go off to fight a physical war are many, and in this, they achieve spiritual maturity. Their sacrifice is noted and recorded. But the real battle is not won on the battlefields of physical reality. We first must win the internal war, and this is not a battle many are willing to fight. It has been noted that we need to fight and defeat the state. Many groups attempt to do this, or at least reduce its power. Yet, they have not been very successful, and they probably do not know why. But the problem of the state is not a macroeconomic problem, it is a spiritual one. The spiritual problem has its macro aspects, but the real war is fought internally, but to truly win the right requires a spiritually mature couple. The whole armor of God, mentioned in Ephesians 6 verses 10 to 18, the belt of truth, breastplate of righteousness, shoes with the preparation of the gospel of peace, shield of faith, helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit/word of God. But these things features are not designed to wage a physical war, nor even a theological one. The sword of the Spirit of truth is better suited to ensure logical thought than win arguments with the evil one. The war we wage is more of an internal one than an external one. We win the world by winning our battle against the flesh. This war is a spiritual one. But this war of the spiritual immature against the spiritual mature is a war against our physical nature, as much as a war against the system developed from it. We need to mature spiritually. In the wider sphere we do this as a church, but the bigger battle is fought in our relationships. The man bears the blame for the failed relationship, for the woman is designed to love. But for this dynamic to bear fruit, the girl must submit to the man. The spiritual maturity of the man is found in his ability to be a person of trust, or what we know of as integrity. The girl gains her spiritual maturity through the depth and constancy of her love. To experience the love of a girl, the man must be trustworthy. Trust is spiritual love. It is through the development and the experience of trust that spiritual maturity reaches its highest degree. It is the bond created by spiritually mature couples that holds the key to defeating this system.